Betty and Barney Hill are perhaps the most famous purported alien abductees since the search for ET began. On the evening of September the 19th, 1961, Betty and Barney were driving down Route 3 in the United States, heading back to Portsmouth after a vacation in Niagara Falls. Betty began to see what she initially thought was a shooting star, but then quickly realised the object in the sky was moving erratically. It began to grow bigger and brighter as it approached the couple. She asked Barney to pull over so she could observe it properly and to walk their dog. Barney thought that it was an airliner and then changed his mind. The pair quickly got back in the car and drove on. What happened next was something straight out of the X-Files. This is the incredible true story of Betty and Barney Hill, abducted by aliens. Barney drove to Franconia Notch, which is a narrow mountainous stretch of road off of Route 3. 1 mile south of their position, the object rapidly descended toward their vehicle, causing Barney to stop in the middle of the highway. The huge silent craft hovered about 80 to 100 feet above their car and filled the entire view in the windshield. Barney said that it reminded him of a giant pancake. Carrying his pistol in his pocket, he stepped away from the vehicle and moved closer to the craft. Using binoculars, Barney claimed to have seen about 8 to 11 humanoid figures who were peering out of the craft's windows, glaring at him. In unison, all but one figure moved to what appeared to be a panel on the rear wall of the hallway that encircled the front portion of the craft. The one remaining figure continued looking at Barney and, with just a glare from its eyes, communicated a message telling him to stay where you are and keep looking. Barney had a recollection of observing the humanoid forms wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps. Red lights on what appeared to be bat-wing fins began to telescope out of the sides of the craft, and a long structure descended from the bottom of the craft. The silent craft approached to what Barney estimated was within 50 to 80 feet overhead and 300 feet away from him. Barney tore the binoculars away from his eyes and ran back to his car. In a near hysterical state, he told Betty, "They're going to capture us." He saw the object again shift its location to directly above the vehicle. He drove away at high speed, telling Betty to look for the object. She rolled down the window and looked up. Almost immediately, the Hills heard a rhythmic series of beeping or buzzing sounds, which, they said, seemed to bounce off the trunk of their vehicle. The car vibrated and a tingling sensation passed through the Hills' bodies. The Hills said at this point in time they experienced the onset of an altered state of consciousness that left their minds dulled. A second series of beeping or buzzing sounds returned the couple to full consciousness. They found that they had travelled an astonishing 35 miles south, but had only vague spotty memories of this section of road. They recalled making a sudden, unplanned turn, encountering a roadblock and observing a fiery orb in the road. Arriving home at about dawn, the Hills assert that they had some odd sensations and impulses they could not readily explain. Betty insisted that their luggage be kept near the back door rather than in the main part of the house. Strangely, Their watches had stopped and would never work again after the incident. Barney's shoes had been scraped, and after sleeping for a few hours, Betty awoke and placed the shoes and clothing she had worn during the drive into her closet, observing that the dress was torn at the hem, zipper and lining. Betty threw the dress away as it was irreparably damaged, but then changed her mind, retrieving the dress and hanging it in her closet. Over the years, 5 laboratories have conducted chemical and forensic analysis on the dress. There were shiny concentric circles on their car's trunk that had not been there the previous day. Betty and Barney experimented with a compass, noting that when they moved it close to the spots, the needle would whirl rapidly, but when they moved it a few inches away from the shiny spots, it would drop down. The couple tried to construct the events chronologically, but say that their memories were scattered soon after they heard the buzzing sounds from the craft. There is something I would like to point out here that made me take an interest in this story in the first place. Barney said that the beings appeared to be wearing black uniforms and black hats, which sounds a lot like the real Men in Black, which I have covered in a previous video, so why not watch that one as well. These so-called Men in Black only seem to appear in relation to UFO sightings or incidents involving extraterrestrial beings. Who knows whether the real Men in Black are actually aliens or if they are just part of a secret service managed by our governments. So, what about decent evidence of UFOs? And I'm not talking about the Earth variety. Well, I've got some really neat videos that show compelling evidence of alien craft. One of the videos was recorded by fighter pilots in 2004 and investigated as part of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It's not clear if the object was ever identified, but the New York Times reported that this US Department of Defense program was shut down in 2012. The video you're seeing now was taken during the deployment of a wake shield for NASA's mission STS-80 involving the crew of the Space Shuttle Columbia. It's interesting to note that the object swerves to the left, seemingly intentionally. Objects like debris or ice wouldn't act in this fashion. Let me know what your thoughts are on these fascinating videos in the comment section. I've always been open-minded when it comes to our universe. I do believe that we are not alone in the big open expanse of space. Billions of galaxies and trillions of planets. There must be at least one other planet, if not hundreds or thousands, that harbour intelligent sentient life. Who's to say that aliens on another planet have not evolved well beyond our capabilities in terms of technology to be able to reach and observe us? They seem to have been visiting us for thousands of years. After all, the Egyptians and many other ancient Earth civilizations drew pictures of what seemed to be alien spaceships visiting them. In both the Roswell and Rendlesham Forest UFO incidents, Egyptian hieroglyphs were reported as being seen on the spacecraft. Is that more than just a coincidence? As Mulder and Scully would say, the truth is out there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, why not subscribe so you don't miss the next exciting episode of Strangeries. Thanks for watching.